Did you know that there are some forgotten R&B one-hit wonders from the 70s and 80s you need to hear? From Carl Carlton, whose smash hit, She's a Bad Mama Jama still lights up dance floors, to Anita Ward, who had a #1 hit in the U.S. with Ring My Bell. Here are the forgotten R&B one-hit wonders from 70s and 80s you need to hear. Anita Ward. Anita Ward is an American singer who became famous in the late 1970s. Before becoming a singer, Anita was actually a school teacher. Everything changed when she signed a recording deal and began working on her first album. While she was recording, the head of her record label, Frederick Knight, gave her a song he had written a year earlier. At first, Anita didn't like the song, but Knight believed she needed a fun dance track to match the popular disco style of the time. So, Anita agreed to record it. That song was Ring My Bell. It became a huge hit in 1979, reaching #1 in the US, the UK, and Canada. The song made Anita Ward a star almost overnight. Later that same year, she released a second album called Sweet Surrender. It had another single, Don't Drop My Love, but it only reached number 87 on the charts. Still, both of her albums had the disco sound that was popular at the time. Unfortunately, things started to go wrong. Anita and Knight had problems behind the scenes over contracts. On top of that, disco music was starting to fade, and Anita was involved in a serious car accident. These things stopped her career just as it was taking off. Over time, she became known as a one-hit wonder. Years later, in 1989, Anita tried to make a comeback with an album called Wherever There's Love. It was recorded in the US, but didn't get released in the country, only overseas. The album had upbeat pop songs and even a new version of Ring My Bell, along with 2 slow ballads. After the album didn't take off, Anita stepped away from music again to focus on her family. Even though she only had one big hit, Anita Ward's Ring My Bell still gets played today. Sylvia Robinson. Sylvia was an American singer and music producer. She started her career in the 1950s, teaming up with guitarist Mickey Baker. Together, they became the duo Mickey and Sylvia and released the hit song Love Is Strange in 1956. The song reached #1 on the R&B chart and number 11 on the pop chart in early 1957, making it a major success at the time. But after a few more songs and some modest success, the duo split up in 1958. She returned to her solo career and stayed active in the music business. In 1966, she and her husband moved to New Jersey and started their own music label called All Platinum Records. Their label began to grow, especially when a singer named Leslie Valentine gave them their first real hit. In 1972, Sylvia wrote a song called Pillow Talk. At first, she offered it to soul singer Al Green, but he turned it down because of his religious beliefs. So Sylvia decided to record it herself. Pillow Talk became a huge hit. It went all the way to #1 on the R&B charts and #3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It also made it into the top 20 in the UK. Sylvia's soft, breathy voice and the song's sensual sound made it stand out. And she even earned a Grammy nomination for it in 1974. In the late 1970s, she co-founded Sugar Hill Records, one of the first hip-hop record labels. Sugar Hill Records made history by releasing early rap hits like Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang and The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Eventually, the label closed in 1985 due to tough competition and financial problems. She started another label in 1987 called Bon Ami Records and signed a group called The New Style, who would later become the well-known hip-hop group Naughty by Nature. Shirley Brown. Shirley Brown is an American R&B singer. She started singing in church at just 9 years old. Her early gospel roots helped shape her strong, emotional style of singing. People even compared her voice to the legendary Aretha Franklin. When Shirley was only 14, blues guitarist Albert King discovered her singing at a club in Illinois. Impressed by her talent, he invited her to tour with him. She spent 9 years on the road with King, learning the business and building her voice. In 1974, Albert King introduced her to Stax Records, a famous soul music label based in Memphis, Tennessee. That year, Shirley recorded her most famous song, Woman to Woman. The song was a huge hit. It reached #1 on the Billboard R&B chart and #22 on the pop chart. It sold over 1 million copies and earned a gold record. The song, with its emotional message and heartfelt spoken intro, became Shirley's signature hit and Stax's last big success. She released an album of the same name, Woman to Woman, but things quickly became difficult. Stax Records was having money problems and legal issues, and the label shut down not long after. Her follow-up single, It Ain't No Fun, didn't do as well, and Shirley's chance for continued fame faded along with the label. In 1977, she signed with Arista Records and released another album. One of the songs, Blessed is the Woman, managed to reach #14 on the R&B chart. After that, she recorded for different labels, including the newly reopened version of Stax, and later joined Malaco Records, a blues label based in Mississippi. Though she didn't return to the charts in a big way, Shirley never stopped singing. She has continued performing live, especially in the southern United States. William DeVaughn Jr. William DeVaughn Jr. is an American R&B and soul singer who gave the world one unforgettable hit in the 1970s. Before music, William worked a regular job as a drafting technician for the government. In his spare time, he wrote songs and dreamed of making music. One of the songs he wrote was called A Cadillac Don't Come Easy. He later rewrote it into the song that would make him famous, Be Thankful for What You Got. In 1972, he paid $900 of his own money to have it recorded at Omega Sound, a studio in Philadelphia. There, producer John Davis helped turn the song into something smooth and soulful. They recorded the final version at Sigma Sound Studios, a place known for creating some of the best soul music of the time. The song was released in 1974 by Roxbury Records and became a massive hit. It sold nearly 2 million copies, reached #1 on the R&B chart, and climbed to #4 on the pop charts. In the UK, it also charted twice, once in 1974 and again in 1980. The song was so uplifting and powerful that even gospel radio stations played it. With its message about being thankful for what you have, no matter your situation, it touched a lot of people. After the song's success, DeVaughn left his government job to pursue music full-time. He released an album that same year with mostly spiritual and thoughtful songs. One of the follow-up singles, Blood is Thicker Than Water, made it to #10 on the R&B chart and #43 on the pop chart. However, not long after his rise, he stepped away from the music scene. He went back to regular life, working at a record store and as a draftsman once again. Years later, in 2004, he returned with a new song called I Came Back, released on his own label, Mighty Two Diamond Records, The Floaters. The Floaters were an R&B vocal group from Detroit, Michigan, formed in 1976. Most of the members grew up in the Sojourner Truth housing projects on Detroit's East Side. The group included James Mitchell, who had been part of another R&B group, the Detroit Emeralds, his brother Paul Mitchell, Larry Cunningham, Charles Clark, and Ralph Mitchell. James Mitchell co-wrote their biggest hit, Float On, along with Arnold Ingram and Marvin Willis. The song had a unique idea. Each member of the group introduced himself by name, said his astrological sign, and described his ideal romantic partner. It was smooth, fun, and different from anything else at the time. The track became a worldwide hit in 1977. It reached #1 on the US R&B chart, #2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and even went to #1 in the UK for a week. Although the group released more music after Float On, none of their follow-up songs reached the same level of success. Their next biggest song, You Don't Have to Say You Love Me, only reached #28 on the R&B chart. Still, Float On lived on in pop culture. Many artists covered or parodied it over the years. In 1988, the rap group Stetsasonic did their own version. The comedy duo Cheech and Chong made a funny parody called Bloat On. Even Sesame Street did a fun take on the song called Gimme 5, featuring familiar characters like Gordon and Bob. In the UK, comedy group The Barron Knights included a parody in their 1977 hit Live in Trouble. The song was also sampled by the Canadian hip-hop group Dream Warriors. And in 2001, R&B group Full Force recorded a new version of it for their album Still Standing. Although the Floaters released 4 studio albums, none of their other songs had the same magic as Float On. Rockwell. Rockwell is an American singer and songwriter. He is the son of Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records, one of the most important music labels in R&B history. Rockwell didn't want to get famous just because of who his father was. He made sure to sign his record deal without his dad's help. In 1983, Rockwell released the song that would make him famous, Somebody's Watching Me. The song had a spooky, paranoid feel, and it featured his childhood friend Michael Jackson singing the catchy chorus. Michael's brother, Jermaine Jackson, also added background vocals. The song became a huge hit. It reached number 2 on the U.S. charts and stayed at number 1 on the Billboard R&B chart for 5 weeks. It also became a hit in the UK, reaching number 6. Somebody's Watching Me was certified gold and became one of the most memorable songs of the early 80s, thanks to its catchy hook and unique theme. But after that, Rockwell struggled to keep the same level of success. His next single, Obscene Phone Caller, made it to number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100, but none of his other songs reached the top 40. He released 2 more albums, but eventually stepped away from music. Somebody's Watching Me never really disappeared. The song has been used in movies, commercials, and Halloween playlists, and it even re-entered the UK charts in 2021. Orin Juice Jones. Orin Jones is a former R&B singer who had one unforgettable hit in the 1980s. Before he ever stepped into a recording studio, Orin had a very different life. He graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1981 and served as a sniper officer in the Marine Corps. It was only after serving his country that he turned to music. In the mid-1980s, Orin became the first artist signed to OBR Records, a part of Def Jam. In 1986, he released a song called The Rain, and it changed everything for him. With its smooth groove and dramatic spoken word breakdown, the song became a huge hit. It reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was played on radios across the country. The song's story about heartbreak and betrayal made it stand out, and people connected with its honest emotion and unique style. The Rain was such a big deal that it earned Orin a Grammy nomination for Best R&B Vocal Performance, Male. After that hit, Orin released more music, including a duet called How to Love Again with Allison Williams. But none of his later songs matched the success of The Rain. He went on to release 2 more albums, but they didn't perform well on the chart. William Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart was an American R&B singer. His journey into music started in an unexpected way. While in London for a show, Jermaine met Mikey Craig, the bassist of the popular group Culture Club. Mikey saw something special in Jermaine and helped him record a demo. That connection also led to Jermaine singing background vocals on Culture Club's hit song, Miss Me Blind. With a strong demo and help from his new music friends, Jermaine signed a deal with Arista Records. His first album, The Word Is Out, gave him a bit of success. The title track made it onto the charts, and the album reached number 30 on the U.S. R&B Albums chart. But it was his second album, Frantic Romantic, that made Jermaine a star. In 1986, he released the single We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, a fun and positive dance track. The song was a worldwide hit, reaching the top 10 in the US, Canada, Ireland, and the UK. Jermaine followed it up with another album, Say It Again, in 1987. The title track became his second big hit, reaching the US top 40 and climbing to number 7 in the UK singles chart. Songs like Get Lucky and Don't Talk Dirty to Me also found success, especially in Europe, where Jermaine had a strong fan base. In Germany, Don't Talk Dirty to Me was one of the best-selling singles of 1988, but by the time his 4th album, What Becomes a Legend, Most came out, things had changed. The album didn't do well in the US, and its lead single only just made it into the UK charts. He later recorded one last album, Set Me Free, but it was never officially released. His final project, Believe in Me, was started shortly before his death, and some of its tracks were released in 2005 as part of a tribute album. Timex Social Club. Timex Social Club was an American R&B group that came and went quickly, but not before leaving behind one unforgettable hit. The original members included Marcus Thompson, Gregory Thomas, Michael Marshall, Craig Samuel, and Darian Klieg. After a few members left, the group added Alex Hill and Kevin Moore, changed their name to Timex Social Club, and got to work creating a unique blend of funk and R&B. In 1986, they released their only album, Vicious Rumors, produced by J. King. The album included their breakout song, Rumors, which became a huge hit. It reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and hit number 1 on the R&B chart and dance charts. The song was also a success overseas, making it to number 13 in the UK. Rumors was a catchy, upbeat track that talked about gossip and how damaging it can be. People loved the message, the beat, and the sound. It became one of the biggest songs of 1986, and because of its popularity, the group was invited to open for Run DMC on their Raising Hell tour, a huge opportunity at the time. They followed Rumors with 2 more songs, Thinking About Ya and Mixed Up World, both of which reached the R&B Top 20. However, not long after the success of Rumors, the group disbanded. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button today. Today was an American R&B vocal group that became famous in the late 1980s. The group actually began in 1984 under the name The Gents. It included Frederick Drakeford, Larry McCain, William McNear, Ronald Scruggs, and Bernard Bell. Their big break came when they performed at an anti-drug event and caught the attention of producer Teddy Riley. Riley believed in their talent, gave them a new name, Today, and helped them sign a record deal with MCA Records. Soon after, music executive Gerald Busby moved from MCA to Motown and took Today with him, along with other rising acts like The Boys and The Good Girls. Motown tried to position these groups as the next generation of soul. Today as the new Four Tops, The Boys as the new Jackson 5, and The Good Girls as the new Supremes. In 1988, Today released their debut album. Their first single, Him or Me, did well, reaching number 3 on the R&B chart. But their next single, Girl I Got My Eyes on You, became their biggest hit. It reached number 1 on the R&B chart and even charted in the UK. For a moment, it looked like Today was on their way to becoming a major R&B group. However, things started to change. The later singles from the album didn't perform as well, and the group wasn't happy with how they were being promoted or produced. When they returned with their second album, The New Formula, Teddy Riley was no longer involved. 2 songs from the album, I Got the Feeling and I Want to Come Back Home, also charted, but with less impact. Despite their efforts, the group couldn't match the success of their earlier hits. After they broke up, Drakeford went solo under the name Big Bub and released his own music. The other members tried to continue as a trio, but couldn't land another record deal. Siedah Garrett. Siedah Garrett is a talented American singer and songwriter who many people may not know by name, but they've likely heard her voice. She has worked behind the scenes and in the spotlight, helping shape some of the biggest songs in R&B and pop. She started her career doing background vocals for big names like Michael Jackson, Donna Summer, and Quincy Jones. In the early 1980s, Siedah joined a soul and funk group called Plush, which released 1 album. After that, she started singing on her own. In 1984, she had a major R&B hit with Don't Look Any Further, a duet with Dennis Edwards. The song became a classic and reached number 2 on the R&B chart. Just a few years later, in 1987, her voice reached millions again, this time beside one of the biggest stars in the world. Siedah was chosen at the last minute to sing a duet with Michael Jackson on the song I Just Can't Stop Loving You for his Bad album. She had no idea she'd be singing it until the day they recorded it. But that moment gave her the biggest hit of her career. The song reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a global favorite. Sita also co-wrote Man in the Mirror, another major hit from the same album, showing her talent not just as a singer, but also as a powerful songwriter. Even though she never had another huge hit under her own name, Sita Garrett made her mark. Cheryl Pepsi Riley. Cheryl Riley is an American R&B singer and actress. Before going solo, Cheryl was the lead singer of a band called Stargaze. In 1982, they released a single called You Can't Have It, but her real moment came a few years later. In 1988, Cheryl's career took off with the emotional ballad Thanks for My Child. The song was written by Bow-Legged Lou from the group Full Force and was inspired by his wife's difficult pregnancy. Cheryl's powerful voice brought the story to life, and the song went straight to #1 on the US R&B chart and even crossed over to the pop chart, landing at number 32. It was also a minor hit in the UK. Many people connected deeply with the message, especially single mothers and families going through hard times. Her debut album, Me, Myself, and I, followed in 1989, and though it had a couple more songs that charted, none reached the success of her first hit. She released 2 more albums, Chapters and All That, and while they had some great music, they didn't make a big splash on the charts. After stepping away from music for a while, Cheryl returned in the late 90s, this time mixing music with acting. She became a familiar face in Tyler Perry's stage plays and movies, playing roles in productions like Medea's Class Reunion, Why Did I Get Married, and Diary of a Mad Black Woman. These performances helped her reach new fans who may not have known her from her music days. Junior Giscombe. Junior Giscombe, known simply as Junior, was one of the first British R&B singers to break into the US music scene. Junior started his journey in the 1970s by making music with his school friends. Together they formed a small record label and even released a track called Nice and Slow, which Junior later said reached #1 in Australia. In the late 70s, he recorded more songs like Get Up and Dance, which he claimed also did well in France and on Billboard's breakout chart. However, it wasn't until 1982 that Junior became a name people really started to recognize. His solo single Mama Used to Say became a major hit. The song had a catchy beat and lyrics about growing up and learning life's lessons. It climbed to #7 in the UK and also became a top 5 R&B hit in the US. Thanks to its success, Junior was named Best Newcomer by Billboard magazine. Junior followed that hit with Too Late, which also made it into the UK Top 20, and he released other tracks like Unison, which saw some love on the US dance charts. Junior had one more big moment in 1987 when he teamed up with pop star Kim Wilde for a duet called Another Step, Closer to You. That track hit #6 in the UK and helped bring him back into the spotlight for a short time. Though Junior didn't stay on the charts for long, Mama Used to Say remains a timeless jam from the 80s. If you don't know it, now's the time to check it out. You'll see why it made such a splash. Timothy Thomas. Timmy Thomas was an American R&B singer, keyboard player, and songwriter who had one big hit that people still remember today. Before becoming famous on his own, he played with well-known jazz musicians like Donald Byrd and Cannonball Adderley. He also worked as a session musician in Memphis, helping other artists make their music. But in 1972, everything changed. After moving to Miami and signing with Glades Records, Timmy released a simple but powerful song called Why Can't We Live Together? The song had just his voice, an organ, and a drum machine, but its message about peace and unity struck a chord with listeners. It reached #1 on the US R&B chart, hit #3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and became a hit in many other countries, including the UK, where it peaked at #12. The song ended up selling over 2 million copies. Even though that was his biggest moment, Timmy kept making music. He recorded more songs like Gotta Give a Little Love, 10 years after, which reached the R&B charts in 1984. He also sang a duet with Nicole McLeod in 1985 called New York Eyes, which made it to #41 in the UK. In the 1990s, Timmy worked behind the scenes as a producer for LaFace Records and even released another album called With Heart and Soul, which didn't chart. Rebbie Jackson. Rebbie Jackson is the oldest child in the famous Jackson family. While her brothers were already stars, Rebbie took her time before stepping into the spotlight. In the 1970s, she performed with her siblings in Las Vegas and appeared on their TV show, The Jacksons. But it wasn't until 1984 that she released her own music. That year, Rebbie dropped her debut album Centipede after making sure her family life was stable and her kids were cared for. The album came out on Columbia Records and included help from many of her family members. Her husband helped write songs, her brothers Tito and Randy pitched in, and most importantly, her brother Michael Jackson wrote, produced, and sang backup on the title track, Centipede. Centipede became a big hit. It climbed to number 4 on the R&B chart, sold over 1 million copies, and was certified gold. It was also the first song Michael Jackson wrote and produced after the huge success of Thriller, which made it extra special. The album also featured covers of songs by Prince and Smokey Robinson. After the success of Centipede, Rebbie didn't rush to release more music. She focused on her family, then made a brief return in 1995 with a song for the movie Free Willy 2. Though Centipede was her one big hit, she left a mark in the R&B scene. Johnny Kemp. Johnny Kemp was a singer from the Bahamas who made one of the most feel-good R&B hits of the 1980s. He started young, singing in nightclubs when he was just 13 years old. In 1979, he moved to Harlem, New York, hoping to take his music career further. At first, he worked behind the scenes, singing backup and writing songs for other artists. In 1986, Johnny got his own record deal and released his first solo album. One song from it, Just Another Lover, did okay on the R&B charts. But it was his second album, Secrets of Flying, that made him a star, at least for a moment. That album gave us Just Got Paid, a song about celebrating payday and having a good time. It was catchy, upbeat, and had the perfect vibe for a Friday night. In 1988, it hit number 1 on the R&B charts and reached the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. It even sold over 1 million copies in the U.S. After that, Johnny had one more minor hit with Birthday Suit from the movie Sing, but nothing else ever matched the success of Just Got Paid. Still, that one song made him unforgettable. Even now, when people hear it, they can't help but smile, dance, and feel like the weekend has just begun. Johnny Kemp may be known as a one-hit wonder, but that one hit was enough to earn him a place in R&B history. Jeffrey Dion Estes. Jeffrey Dion Estes was a talented American bass player and singer who most people remember for one beautiful song, Heaven Help Me. Before that hit, Dion had already built a strong music career behind the scenes. He started out as a teenager playing with the R&B band Brainstorm, and later moved to Europe where he toured with legends like Marvin Gaye. He eventually settled in London and joined the pop group Wham, becoming their bass player. He also worked closely with George Michael, playing bass on George's first solo projects. With all this experience, Dion decided to step into the spotlight himself. In 1989, he released his only solo album, Spell. The album had a few songs that did well, but one stood out, Heaven Help Me. George Michael sang the background vocals, and the track became a huge hit. It reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 3 on the R&B chart. It was smooth, emotional, and full of soul. Many fans connected with its message about needing love and guidance during tough times. Even though Dion Estes never had another big solo hit, he continued to play music for stars like Tina Turner, Elton John, and Annie Lennox. Thelma Houston. Thelma Houston is an American singer who will always be remembered for one powerful hit, Don't Leave Me This Way. But before that, her path to fame wasn't easy. She started out singing gospel music with a group called the Art Reynolds Singers. Later, she got signed to Motown Records in the early 1970s, but her early songs didn't get much attention. One of them, You've Been Doing Wrong for So Long, made it to the R&B charts and even got her a Grammy nomination. but it wasn't a major hit. Everything changed in 1976 when she released her album, Any Way You Like It. That album had a cover of a song by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes called Don't Leave Me This Way. Thelma's version took off. It hit number 1 on the R&B chart, number 1 on the dance charts, and later climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1977. The song was played everywhere, from clubs to radio stations, and it won her a Grammy for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. Even though she released more music after that, including songs like If It's the Last Thing I Do, none of them came close to the success of Don't Leave Me This Way. She continued to sing and perform into the 1980s, but as disco faded and music tastes changed, she struggled to stay on the charts. Still, that one song made her unforgettable. If you've never heard it before, it's time to go back and listen. O'Brien. O'Brien is a talented R&B artist who came close to becoming a big star in the 1980s, but things didn't go as planned. He started learning piano at just 6 years old. He grew up singing in church and at local talent shows. After moving with his family to Santa Ana, California, O'Brien was spotted by Melanie Kersey, a musician with experience in the 1970s soul scene. Kersey saw his potential and introduced him to Don Cornelius, the creator of Soul Train. This connection helped O'Brien land a record deal. His first album, Doin' All Right, came out in 1982 and reached number 10 on the Billboard R&B Albums chart. The standout single was The Gigolo, a funky track that showed off O'Brien's high falsetto voice. It climbed to number 5 on the R&B chart and gave him his first real taste of success. But it was his 1984 album, Be My Lover, that gave him his biggest hit. The lead single, Love Light, reached number 1 on the Billboard R&B Singles chart. People loved his mix of upbeat songs and emotional slow jams like Lady I Love You and You're Always on My Mind. The album was his highest charting and most loved. In 1986, O'Brien released a fourth album, Surrender, but it didn't do as well. After some label troubles, including a failed deal with a company run by actor Michael Douglas, O'Brien quietly stepped away from the music spotlight. Although he never became a household name, O'Brien's voice and songs still hold up. If you've never heard The Gigolo or Love Light, they're definitely worth a listen. Carl Carlton. Carl Carlton is a singer who became famous during the 1970s and 1980s, but many people have forgotten about him today. He started his career with some local hits in Detroit like So What and Don't You Need a Boy Like Me. Things really picked up when he signed with Backbeat Records in 1968 and moved to Houston, Texas. One of his early songs, Competition Ain't Nothing, became especially popular in the UK's northern soul scene, even though it wasn't a big hit in the US. In the early 70s, Carlton started to get noticed in America. His 1971 track, I Can Feel It, reached the soul charts, and then in 1974, he had his first major US hit, a cover of Everlasting Love. The song made it to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became his breakthrough moment. But just when things were going well, Carlton ran into problems. He had a royalty dispute with ABC Records, which stalled his music career. He didn't release much for a while, and when he signed with Mercury Records in 1977, only one single came out. Then in 1981, Carlton made a big comeback. With help from producer Leon Haywood, he released the funk hit, She's a Bad Mama Jama. She's built, she's stacked. The song was a huge success. It reached number 2 on the R&B chart and earned him a Grammy nomination. It also became a go-to song for parties, movies, and even hip-hop samples. His album, Carl Carlton, went gold, but after that, his fame slowly faded. He released more music in the 80s, but none of it matched the success of She's a Bad Mama Jama. After 1985's Private Property, he did not release another album until 1994's Main Event, which also failed to chart. Which of these songs do you still listen to today? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video for more contents.